Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the discussion on transformation and looking how to adapt to future market landscape. I would like to thank AED for organizing this very important discussion and the previous speakers for laying out our work ahead. We've just heard from the Minister of Economy that we need to innovate and adjust the skill sets of the Portuguese economy. And he laid upon us a responsibility by saying that the space, defense, and aerospace sectors will need to come up with ideas and projects to support the recovery of the economy. So no pressure there. And João Taborda laid out, so we wouldn't get too excited with the prospects, a very bleak but realistic layout of what's the framework in terms of geopolitical context that we'll be dealing with. And in this panel, we'll be turning into industry leaders to hear from them on new perspectives. And I'm looking forward, and I imagine most of you are, to get the inside scoop on how the big companies in Europe are thinking of tackling this. We'll have with us Cesar Lopez from Airbus, Alexandre Solis from OGMA, Marc Cathelineau from THALES, and we hope Robert Edwards from Bell Flight. So you're not here to hear the moderator, so I'll just pass the word along to Cesar and ask him to please start. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco, for your introduction. A pleasure to participate in AED Days this year again. It is for us a very important event in Portugal and in Europe. And I would like to spend like 15 minutes to exchange with you about some of our thoughts and information from Airbus as a key European and worldwide aerospace and aviation player. Of course, the name of the game this year is COVID. So I have organized the presentation in three main blocks. One is to briefly present Airbus pre-COVID and over the last years. Then I will talk about our vision on COVID and impact in the industry. And then I will spend some time focusing on Portugal. Next, please. So Airbus today, and this is how we like to define ourselves, we are a commercial aircraft manufacturer with defense and space and helicopter division. We are the largest aeronautical group in Europe and defense, and one of the worldwide leaders together with Boeing. Next. Considering our worldwide footprint, we have around 180 locations in the world and more than 12,000 direct suppliers. For sure, we are a company with an European heritage, but as of today, it has become truly international. We have final assembly lines and factories across Asia, Europe, and America. Next, please. Pre-COVID figures, you can see the performance of Airbus. We are, in a nutshell, a company of 70 billion euros of revenues with a solid EBIT. And just for information and for our shareholders, we decided in 2019 to withdraw the dividend in order to keep some liquidity in the company. But as you can see, the EBIT of the company and the revenues of the last year has been solid. Next, please. The same we can say about deliveries and backlog. This has been a growing trend over the last years. I have shown here 6 years, but if we take the last 15 years, it's similar, with an increase of deliveries and a backlog of orders. It means that with such a backlog, more than 7,000 commercial aircraft, the production is secure for, depends on the model, for many years. Next. And as global company, we are today more than 130,000 employees in the world, mainly located in Europe, France, Germany, Spain, UK, and with significant footprint in Americas and China and Asia. It's very important to highlight from an Airbus international perspective that despite our European heritage, around 70% of our sales are international out of our home countries, to give you the dimension of the global company we are. Next, please. Pre-COVID scenarios. And this is very much linked about the impact of the aviation in the economy. We call ourselves a driver of global economy. Why? Not only because, and these figures are 2019, we had more than 3.6 billion passengers globally. We support almost 63 million job supporting worldwide. And our contribution to the global GDP is $2.7 trillion. That's why we call aviation a driver of the global economy. Next. And in the long term, we also say that the industry is solid because not only what I mentioned before about the backlog of orders that is still in the books, but because over the last 15 years and even before, the aviation growth and the traffic of passenger growth has been every year 4.4%. Of course, with COVID, we have to resettle all the baseline. But if we see the next slide, one thing we can consider is that since almost 50 years, the aviation has been very resilient to the crisis. If we consider the oil crisis, Gulf crisis, Asian crisis, SARS, September 11th, financial crisis in 2008, you can see in this trend that the aviation has kept the growing path. For sure, the crisis we are facing now with COVID is by far the biggest of all. So it's too early to anticipate the impact on this graph. But in the long term, and in the long term, we are talking about 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we are confident that the air traffic will recover and will keep growing. Next, please. Some words about the COVID impact, because we cannot escape to the reality 2020 and beyond. This is clear that following our internal market assessment and also the feedback from our customers, airlines, and government, it's clear that this crisis will go well beyond 2021. And the traffic, we don't know exactly when the level of traffic we had in 2019 will recover, but our assumption is that it will not be before 2023, or some specialists are even mentioning 2025. So it means that we are still far away from the levels of 2019, and we expect a long period of downside in the international traffic. Associated to that, from an Airbus perspective, we have adapted our production rates. So as of today, we have cut 40% of the production rate compared to last year. And this is aligned with the international official data from IATA that says that due to COVID, the number of seat passengers has been reduced 80% compared to last year, and the capacity of the infrastructure aircraft system has been reduced about 70%, which is a very, very serious crisis, as you can see. Not all, we are talking about October 2020 are bad news. We are already experiencing some recovery in some domestic markets. This is the case of China, for example, where the domestic traffic is almost at the pre-crisis level. Nevertheless, the international travel that is normally operated by wide bodies will remain weak for a longer period. And due to this unprecedented crisis and context, today we are not in a position to issue a new forecast. On top of that, we are confident that the market will return, as mentioned before, but the point is that we don't know exactly when this will happen in the future. So the speed of the recovery is still unknown. Next, please. Focus on Portugal. Next. Today, this is the Airbus footprint in Portugal. To start with, I want to mention that for us, Portugal, despite it's not a home country because of the origin of Airbus, today is a more than important partner, not only because it's a European Union country, not only because this is a neighbor country, not only because we have a very long partnership and relationship for decades, but because the Portuguese industry and the sector has a lot of important parameters, indicators that are very positive to be a very good partner for a company like Airbus. As of today, the Airbus footprint, it's going to the Ministry of Defense. The Air Force is operating today 12C-295, which is the backbone of the Air Force fixed wing capacity. We have the Coastal Vessel Traffic Management System that implemented some years ago. We have also a terrestrial imagery. We have a very long-term relationship in the helicopters field, both with the government and the Portuguese Air Force, but also with private operators. And last, but of course not least, we are the reference partner for the commercial aviation in Portugal. Today in TAP, we have by far the biggest presence. TAP is today almost 100% Airbus airline, but also with high fly, SATA, and aviation, we have a significant presence and partnership. This is in terms of a customer landscape, but if we go to industry, to major companies, today we have around 10 major Portuguese companies embedded in our global supply chain. And you can see some example of that. Next. What about the future? What about the cooperation? And in particular, cooperation is how we call the name of the game for the after COVID period. Well, in Airbus, we like to call ourselves a partner. And as I mentioned before, for Portugal, this is even more important. The situation today, and this is to be developed further in the future, we hope, is that around 50% of the Portuguese aerospace and defense suppliers are already in the value chain of Airbus in different ways, tier 2, tier 1 plus, tier 2 plus, 3, etc. The group Airbus has developed an active supply chain in country. In 2019, we have a volume of 65 million euros, but increasing over the 5 years up to almost 200 million euros. In terms of jobs, we are sustaining today around 1,000 Portuguese jobs, and this is something that is growing rapidly. I will talk a little bit later, but we have also some important investments that, for instance, the new Estilia plant in Santo Tirso in the north of the country that was announced last year in the middle of the AED Days, where we plan to have a very serious investment in the country. We also have been cooperating and supporting the Portuguese cluster and industries in European Union innovation projects through Airbus divisions. One example is Clean Sky 2 Passaro, but there are some others. So this is only a starting point, but we are identifying different areas of cooperations to go further than our current presence. And we are talking about partnerships with companies, but also universities, institutions, startups, supply chain, industrial cooperation, and MRO activities. So we are tackling today all and every niche of aerospace in order to see the best partners and how we can develop that in the future. Next, please. Some words about the Estilia case, because it was announced in October last year. Estilia is a 100% fully owned subsidiary of Airbus. Estilia last year, in partnership with the government of Portugal, decided to implement part of his strategy out of France in Portugal through establishing a new assembly plant in Santo Tirso. This is considered the biggest investment in the aerospace industry in Portugal since 2008. And not only because of the volume, but of the quality of the workload to be put in Santo Tirso. Then for Estilia, this will be a significant industrial facility. The new entity that was created last year will be significantly inside of the industrial plan of Estilia for globalization. This is under development today, and we are very confident that this will really improve the industrial footprint and cooperation with not only with Estilia, but with other Portuguese partners. This is the target of that. Next, please. Only some words about the title of the conference, which is how to adapt to the future market landscape. Let's go to the example of helicopters. What we think is about the post-COVID recovery drivers. We understand that after COVID, before also, but now even more important, the countries, the governments will need to secure that the investment is serving the purposes of the country in the most efficient way. We are talking about a smart investment. We are not allowed to invest in all and every niche of the market to cover with different platforms, and helicopters will be more important to invest in helicopters that will be able to develop multi-purpose missions. And when we talk multi-purpose, we are talking about versatility to do military and civilian applications. This will be associated also in order to bring more benefits to the country with added value in research, industry, and innovation. So we do believe that the multi-purpose and the versatility of the platforms will be the name of the game for the users, the military users, but also for the civilian applications. Next, please. In such way, our proposal for Portugal in terms of helicopters will be the H145M. Today, it is called the multi-purpose medium helicopter versatile machine. Here you can see, as an example of what I mentioned before, everything we can do with this helicopter. We have a ground support for military forces on ground, because this is a weaponized helicopter. Not only self-protection, but weaponized helicopter with light attack capabilities. In this field, we can say, I mean, in medium helicopters, twin engine, this is the only one able to develop that mission. But it can be perfectly used for firefighting missions, for medical helicopters with 2 stretches, for troop transport. It has capabilities to be embarked for the Navy and for search and rescue missions. Only these 6 pictures you have on your screen gives you a very good idea about what we can do with only one platform, but with all these missions. This is an example of what we see our post-COVID landscape in the helicopters. But of course, my colleagues over the AED Days, they will deliver more detailed information about other missions like firefighting, maritime surveillance, etc. So I was asked to be short. I hope I am on time. And with this, I wanted to finalize my presentation. and I will be able for the questions and answers later on, or by email, as you will have in the next slide my contact. Thank you very much.
Well, and give us his perspective on how are we going to adapt and survive in these challenging times.
Good morning, you all. It's a delight to be participating here in this webinar today. I would like to say thank you to the president of AED Cluster, José Neves, for the invitation, the president of CDD, Professor Marc, Capitão Ferreira, all of my colleagues in this panel. Thank you. So I will say about 100 years of evolution work for the next challenges and opportunities. I'll talk about OGMA, the facilities here in Alverca. We have 3,000 meters runway and 11 maintenance hangars all over in a 440,000 square meters of total area. We start in 1918 with Parque de Material Aeronáutico. OGMA now is more than 100 years. It's a very important point is 1952, when we become part of Portuguese Air Force, and in 1993, when we started Rolls-Royce maintenance, engine maintenance. In 1998, we start with Embraer Service Center, when we transition from defense maintenance for commercial maintenance as well. In 2005, we have the privatization was when become 65% of RE holding and 35% of the government. And a very important landmarks too, it's in 2013, we started the KC-390 project. We'll be part of them. And that's it. So we are 102 years of history. Our mainly business are MRO and air structures. In MRO, we divided in defense aviation, that we work many platforms, include Lockheed Martin with a midlife update, the Fighting Falcon, the C-130, corrosion prevention, engineering support, major structural repairs, major modifications. We work as well in defense, Embraer defense and security with the Super Tucano. We have two painting service, field team and technical representatives all over the world. Our customer portfolio in defense are many air forces, and I would say that Portuguese air forces, it's very important for us. It's part of our DNA as Brazilian air forces, and of course, NSP NATO is being part of all this sector. In MRO civil aviation, when we start with the Air J145, now we are doing heavy checks, redelivery, painting, We work with Camel and some modifications as well. This is our customer portfolio. Airbus is one of them, and many others. MRO engines, we work nowadays with basically mainly with Rolls-Royce engines, and we do a lot of overhaul on this. For MRO components, we are working with landing gears from all the family of the Embraer jets. And in the aerostructures, we are working with, for mainly OEMs. We have automatic and manual assembly, systems integration. We have a composite parts, a shop. This is the mainly portfolio of OGMA from the MRO and aerostructures. Here, one by one. And I'll say now, basically, just to just briefly start, I was just looking forward for the pillars of our changes and opportunities. I divided them in 4 pillars, these challenges that we are looking for. The first one, the competitiveness in operation. In operation, the first one is to attract, train, and retain talent. Our people it's our most important asset. They determine our customer experience. How good we go through this pandemic situation, it's how we're good our teams are doing the work, their jobs. It's very good. To maximize the credibility, truth, the value added to the clients. We have to focus to add value to our clients to be more customer-centric. It is not just for this situation now, but of course, we always following this to find the tailor-made solutions for our customers. This is very important in the operation side. And very important as well, the partnership with Portuguese Air Force is at the core. It's very, very important. It's part of our DNA. This is, we are still working in many air bases of the Portuguese Air Force, keeping the helicopters and airplanes flying during this pandemic situation. This is how we can continue. We will continue this pandemic situation as well to grow our business in this area. In supply chain, we need now, for now and for the past, and more than that in this pandemic situation, to search for win-win cases with the suppliers in proximity. We will reinforce the integration with Embraer Group. We are doing this now, and support the cluster in the related initiatives. We did some initiatives 2 months ago with AED cluster. They help us to do a procurement workshop. We joined more than some hundreds of suppliers. It was very good experience. We need to do this more and more, at least here in Portugal, and to open our base of suppliers. The third pillar is innovation and digital transformation. As always, as we are in an industry that is a high capital intensity, and we need with this reinforce our partnership with academic communities. We are doing this nowadays, but it always has some opportunity to reinforce this. We need to maintain the investment in R&D, and looking for the European ecosystem, we need to do some contribution, valued contribution for this ecosystem. And the fourth pillar, new business. We need to keep a dynamic approach in the current market conditions. We saw that there's a new market, a few opportunities, but we need to be very dynamic to do some different approach. And this new market, this new normal. Maximize the value from not work with the government. The government is our partner. We must work together as we are working now, and for the future and remain resilient in the business with long cycles. Our company, it's more than 100 years of experience, and we go through many crises. And this, I do believe that this is more one, and we must be very resilient to go through this. That's it. Very simple, sharp. And thank you very much. Any questions later on? Marco.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Marco. Can you hear me?
It's Marc. It's Marco Capitão Ferreira first, the moderator, which will pass on to you. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Sorry, too much Marcs in here. So thank you, Alexandre, for a very insightful presentation. I retain essentially the idea to attract, train, and retain talent. We do the two parts better than the third, but I'll leave it up to the questions. So, Marc, from THALES, I'd love to hear from you. It's great to get the inside update on this, on the views that that these companies can provide in such uncertain times. So please enlighten us, Marc.
Hello. Thank you very much, Marco. Good morning to all. And thank you very much for inviting me to these AED Days. I will cover three things. First, THALES today, in some words. Second, the current market situation for our industry. And third, how do we adapt? So first, THALES, as you know, is a global technology leader. Our sales are about 18 billion euro per year. We have a good product mix between aerospace, defense and security, digital identity and security, and ground transport. We have also a good mix of customers between commercial customers, military, governments, and private operators. And we have finally a good geographical mix in terms of operations between Europe, 52%, Asia Pacific, 20%, and North America and the rest of the world, 28%. In a word, our expertise is to master the critical decision chain from sensing, data gathering, data transmission and storage, data processing, and decision making. And our motto is the people we all rely on to make the world go round, they rely on THALES. We help, in a way, our customers, a pilot, a chief of staff, to take the proper decisions in the proper situations. So this is the first point about THALES. Now, what is the market? In the commercial aviation business, the market, as already said by Cesar, has been severely impacted by the COVID-19, and it will take years to recover. Nevertheless, the air traffic growth fundamentals indicate that recovery is inevitable. In defense, the market remains more stable despite budget tensions. And in space, the sector already suffered of the drop of the telecom market, and the institutional market is not completely offsetting this drop. So globally, we are facing a tough market landscape for all our industry in aerospace and defense industry. And my third point is about how can we adapt? Within THALES, first point, we implemented all the necessary measures to face the COVID-19 crisis in order to preserve the health of our employees, our customers, partners, and clients at large. Second, we launched cost savings actions while protecting our ability to ramp back up when the market recovers, namely in civil aerospace. Third, we are strengthening our liquidity in case this crisis persists or worsens. Four, we reinforce our customer-centric organization and culture to always be in a position to answer to our customers' needs and requirements. Five, we go on optimizing our operational performance and program delivery. And six, we accelerate our R&D investments to drive our technological excellence. To be more specific in terms of digital and innovations, we are developing breakthrough innovations to boost our long-term growth. We quickly develop digital technologies to include them inside dream products to support our growth. And we design new services and business models to deliver more secured and recurrent revenues and cash flows. This is it. And of course, I will be available for the Q&A session. Thank you for attention.
So thank you, Marc, for outlining the THALES view on this matter. And I retained especially the idea that resilience comes also from having an appropriate mix of product, services, different types of clients, and being in different geographies, although that also entails a risk. And without further delay, I would pass the word on to Robert Edwards from Bell, that I think has joined us since the beginning of the session. So Robert, welcome, and please let us know what your thoughts are on these matters.
I apologize. I will start over. Please let me know if this doesn't work. I can't hear you. There seems to be an audio problem probably on my side, but my apologies for that. So let me start over again. Let me thank you for allowing me to be here and present in front of all of you. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we're having. It's a pleasure to be with you all, even in the midst of this. Okay, so I think I've got audio now. So in the midst of this global pandemic, you know, we want to come back to something that's very important to us, which is obviously the reason why we're here today is the aerospace industry, and how we can move forward as an industry. I want to talk a little bit today about transformation and what is going on right here at Bell Flight and how we are dealing with transformation. I truly believe that we as a company and as an industry are on the verge of a massive confluence of technologies. Many of the technologies you see here in front of you that are on this particular slide, whether it's autonomous operation or optionally piloted vehicles or semi-autonomous operations, whether it's edge-based sensing, whether it's big data analytics, and what are we doing with that big data analytics in terms of preventive and prescriptive analytics, man-to-machine learning, machine-to-machine learning, electrification, which obviously has huge impacts in terms of our carbon footprint around the world, software as a service, advanced rotor dynamic systems, the Internet of Things, and intelligent air mobility. These are very important to our industry as we move forward. They are actually just not important, but they're critically important to where we are going. It is going to be so critical that we start the process of moving man from in the loop to man on the loop. And what do I mean by that? Is because of the influence or the incoming amount of data that we're going to be seeing is going to be so tremendous. No one has the manpower to take that data, analyze that data quick enough, and get it back to the operator. So we're going to have to do things where artificial intelligence will start to have to come in and help us make critical decisions about the operations of our aircraft, especially as we begin to use operational tempos that are going to be much higher, requiring higher scheduling of the aircraft and service availability of the aircraft. So that's kind of what a lot of the things that we are thinking here at Bell, some of the things that we're thinking here at Bell, and how do we tackle some of these major issues as we go forward. From the Bell perspective, and there's a few things I would like to kind of just discuss with you overall. The Bell 525, which is going to be our newest aircraft to enter the market, and this aircraft will enter next year, late next year. This aircraft is a super medium twin aircraft. It sits at about 21,000 pounds. Very large aircraft for Bell, actually one of our largest aircraft ever built. We've actually accumulated over 1,700 flight hours on this aircraft. It is the first to have a fly-by-wire system from a commercial standard, and it's a triple redundancy system for safety. It has a one-drive system, and it's going to be the first certified in EASA with regard to its latest amendments for this type of technology. It is a completely digital aircraft, meaning that it is completely CAD-based. So we have that digital footprint in our system, which will assist us in many different ways, not only in a training perspective, but also will assist us in terms of a maintenance perspective, where we can use virtual systems to help train maintenance technicians and maintenance chiefs in the MRO and CRO facilities around the world. And obviously, with this particular aircraft, we have a very low carbon footprint, and that was specifically done. This is a green aircraft. And so that I think will hit home, hopefully, with our European friends and all over the world. So we are very excited about this particular aircraft and having the opportunity to showcase it here to everyone very soon. What Bell also is doing is the V280 Valor, and this is our newest entry into future vertical lift. This aircraft is highly unique. Its predecessor obviously was the V-22 for the United States Marine Corps. This one is being looked at very closely with the United States Army. It is going to be the replacement for the UH-60 Blackhawk. This does incorporate the latest and next-gen tilt rotor technology, which is, and the difference between this aircraft and the V-22, its predecessor, is just the transmission element and the rotors rotate into the up position, not the entire engine nacelle. And this does a couple things for us makes this aircraft fairly unique. This aircraft is approaching 200 hours on its airframe right now. We have the V280, the name 280 was given for its speed, 280 knots. This aircraft has pressed up and exceeded 300 knots in horizontal flight, which is amazing. Combat radius of about 800 nautical miles, combat range. It has a very low noise profile, which I think is going to be very important, especially when it's in horizontal flight. You basically cannot hear it coming, which is obviously critical to battlefield operations. And it is built in with certain autonomous capabilities built into the system. So highly unique. And this is what's going to truly change the battlefield and the way we conduct battlefield operations. This particular aircraft will be instrumental in that. The Bell 360 Invictus, another aircraft for future vertical lift capabilities. This is a very unique aircraft as well. This has a low drag tandem seat configuration to it. What makes this aircraft unique, it has a wing design. You can see the wings coming out of the midsection of the aircraft there, which increases the lift on the body of the aircraft as well as the range on the body of the aircraft. It is built with MOSA, which is the Modular Open Systems Architecture, and our friends at Collins Aerospace are helping us with that. It does have the enclosed tail rotor technology for noise reduction, which obviously is big in Europe. Incorporates the latest in stealth design principles as well. And it's these stealth design principles will help make this aircraft virtually invisible. It has a combat radius of about 135 nautical miles, 250 kilometers, and we're hopefully in a position where we're going to schedule first flight for this in the fourth quarter of 2022. So as you can see, Bell is really on the cutting edge of some very unique aircraft. One, the 525 from the commercial aspect, and then the 360 you're seeing here, and prior to that, the V280. So these are state-of-the-art, cutting-edge aircraft, tilt rotor and traditional rotorcraft capability. The next one I'd like to just bring your attention to is our APT vehicle, which is Autonomous Pod Transfer. We're very excited about this vehicle. It is a vertical takeoff and landing. It is a tail sitter. It actually lands on its tail vertically and takes off from its tail vertically. It is a fully electric architecture. It has a 35-mile range, about 56 kilometers, and it can travel at speeds at about 100 to 120 knots. It can lift in terms of a payload of about 70 pounds. So that's why we came up with the name AP70 because of its payload capability. It's a tall vehicle. It's about 6 feet high, just a little bit taller than me, and about 9 feet in wingspan. And why we are so excited about this particular vehicle is because it recently completed the NASA Systems Integration Operationalization, which they call the NASA SIO contest. And that happened actually last week. We flew the aircraft into Class Bravo airspace, which is the most congested and complex airspace in the United States. And we did this successfully. And we flew at about 10 miles. So it did have to enter and exit the Class Bravo airspace. And we did this with a beyond visual line of sight operation. So it actually completed this operation and this mission profile in a stunning fashion. So we are very excited about continuing to move this vehicle forward. Lastly, I wanted to talk just briefly about the Nexus, which is our next generation of flight vehicle. This vehicle has changed and morphed over time. The vehicle was originally a 6-ducted fan vehicle. Now we've moved it to a 4-ducted fan vehicle. It is, we're looking at it from an all-electric and a hybrid propulsion model. It is, it'll seat between 4 and 6 people, depending on the configuration, lift about 800 to 1,000 pounds. And obviously this vehicle, we would want to move this vehicle to an autonomous position. And so this is obviously the next generation of flight, what we are calling intelligent air mobility, kind of a spinoff of urban air mobility. But because of the high amount of software technology that we have to put in this vehicle to operate it, also, it has to be done in a way that is very cost effective, especially if we're going to have more of just the common person being able to travel in this vehicle. So we have to make sure the price point is in a position that we can attract that type of customer to it. So these are the things that Bell is doing, you know, from a commercial and also from a military aspect. Bell is sitting right on the cutting edge. All those things that we spoke about just previously on that one chart, that one slide that spoke to the autonomous operations and software as a service and man-to-machine type technologies, we are currently looking at reviewing and investing in. So these are the things that we believe are going to usher in the next generation of flight, and we're happy to be a part of it. That is all I have, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you. We're happy to be a part of it.
Só reforçar quando falar que as pessoas podem impor questões, enquanto faz as suas, que as pessoas podem impor questões live.
For an exciting set of presentations. We do have some questions coming from our vast online audience, and I would give them their voice first. Specifically, and this is mainly directed at Airbus, but if any of the others want to add something, we've been discussing innovation and transformation of the industry. Does that mean that we should start thinking about using this opportunity, this change that is upon us, to join the zero carbon movement, or at least to reduce the footprint of the sector? Are there any plans to go in that direction? And if yes, what's the technologies you're looking into as a way of reducing the carbon footprint? Is it electric? Is it hydrogen? What are your thoughts on that?
Marco, the question is for me. Okay, I will answer. Do you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So yes, thank you for this question about zero carbon and the ways to achieve that. So I will answer very briefly in two ways. One is about the after COVID need for reducing that, and second, how we plan to do that. It is clear that in the after COVID period, also the industry and the business is under a even higher pressure to be profitable and to maintain the business alive. For that, the airlines, they need new machines that are more efficient. And one way to do that, for sure, is going to lower carbon emissions. So that's why we are in Airbus promoting a shifting from old aircraft to more efficient new aircraft. In order to achieve this new efficient new aircraft that for many airlines is a way of survival, there are different ways. Today is not an innovation presentation, but we can say that we are investing together with our partners in electrical aircraft. Today we are not at that level, so now we are developing to start with hybrid systems and propulsion. This is the risking program for the future, fully electrical aircraft with automatically associated to no carbon emission. Today we are trying to set hybrid systems. For that, the aircraft manufacturer is also the engine manufacturer, and this is the driver of the innovation today. When we will manage to have enough power on market to have a zero electrical aircraft today we are trying to set that smaller aircraft. It's clear that this is already flying, and the world and the industry is in the way of certifying that to have electrical taxis, hybrid solution at a lower scale for the time being. To conclude the answer, zero carbon is a strong target also from the authorities. In Europe, this is a must from the European Commission, and this is a main driver for our innovation teams.
Thank you, Cesar. I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in on this issue, or if I can move to the next question. Well, I'll move to the next question. We've heard a lot about supply chains being spread. THALES referred to having a supply chain that's worldwide, and Airbus actually told us they have 12,000 suppliers. In terms of facing both the downsizing of current programs, but also the situation of disruption in supply chains that the pandemic also brought to light. What's your company's, and this is up for grabs, what's your company's main view on this? Do you feel like you'll be reshuffling the supplier base, you'll be bringing suppliers closer to main facilities, or are you considering insourcing the work packages, because, or a mix of them, or something like that? The feel is that something will change, and how do you see that change in terms of management of the supply chain?
So you want a global view on THALES on that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Well, I am not the person in charge of the supply chain, but what I can tell you is that due to the COVID-19 crisis, we know that a number of our suppliers and subcontractors are suffering, and so we are helping them to face the situation, and our people in charge of procurement have been developing partnerships, and this is key because we all need our partners and suppliers to be able to deliver our solutions and systems.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? Cesar or Alexandre, maybe?
I will say, Marco, that regarding the supply chain, maybe we are open, of course, to see how the supply chain will go through this pandemic situation. Of course, there are some issues that we can internalize. There are some issues we go outside. We are looking for the Embraer group to work together and in a broader view of suppliers. And as we are talking here, as I told you, we did 2 months ago a workshop with AED Help, the cluster that show many companies here in Portugal. It's an alternative to know each other. It's an opportunity this pandemic situation bring this kind of situation is good. Of course, we are looking for to be as competitive as possible, right? That's it.
Very well, Cesar.
Yes, to add a bit what Marc and Alexandre said before, this is a global concern for all the major players, so it's not specific to any company. The more international you are, the more exposed we can feel that pressure. Today, the major groups like Airbus, we are struggling to survive and to come back to a normal functioning with the new standards and until we recover. But it is clear that once these contingency plans are stable, next step is the redefinition of the supply chain. Whatever it is still to be discussed and agreed. But what is clear to me is that all these concerns will always be associated to new opportunities in the redefinition process. And if this will be closing of factories and relocating that, it is possible. Reallocation of our packages, it is possible. But for sure, there will be new opportunities, and the most efficient partners will get also a benefit on that.
Thank you for that. Robert, if you may weigh in, I would also like to know if Bell is looking into these matters, and specifically, probably my fault, but do you see any opportunities in terms of industrial cooperation with the Portuguese industry with Bell?
Specifically, probably my fault, but do you see any opportunities in terms of industrial cooperation with the Portuguese industry with Bell?
I think I want to make sure everybody can hear me, so give me a thumbs up. Okay, good, thank you. Look, we are always evaluating our supply chain. That's under constant evaluation from our team in order to determine, we just don't want to be one deep, but 2, 3 deep on some of our partners in certain situations, especially if they're flight critical components and systems that we have to be able to get our hands on. Bell is in the process right now of evaluating a couple things, specifically regard to that supply chain and how we utilize it. In terms of Portugal, look, we're always looking for potential partners that are out there on the European continent. And I think that's going to be an important piece as we go forward. So we are into that process of evaluating where we are with that. This, unfortunately, the COVID-19 situation has given us the opportunity to take pause on that and make start making some decisions on how we go forward. But, the one thing that we do want to do is spread the Bell presence even more within our European theater. And gain more friends in that particular area. So that is something that's very deeply on our mind, and how we decide to do that very well may be through more and deeper integrated supply chain operations in that particular area. That's all.
Thank you very much.
But, the one thing that we do want to do is spread the Bell presence even more within our European theater.
Very well. We have more questions coming in, so I'll just go on as long as you have the patience to answer. So this is very specific for you, Robert. The Nexus is stirring interest for some of our viewers, and they'd like to know what kind of missions is it designed for? Is it a military, a cargo, or a people transporter, all of the above, or something in between? And when do you expect the test flights to start happening for this particular product?
And when do you expect the test flights to start happening for this particular project?
Great question. So all of the above, first of all, so that makes that fairly easy. We are looking at a vehicle. First of all, the United States Air Force has shown some initial interest in these types of vehicles. Some of the other services are starting to evaluate and how. I mean, the biggest part with the military, especially the United States military, is also always an issue of doctrine. How do they incorporate a vehicle like this into their standard operating doctrine? So that has to be worked out still. But yes, it is being looked at from a military perspective. The add-on to that is, once you start making the vehicle increasingly more autonomous, you have to ask yourself some central questions. One question you ask yourself is, by flying, on certain mission profiles, you don't want to necessarily put a pilot in danger. Okay, and if we can do this autonomously, like for an ammo drop-off, is a good example of that, moving that to the forward operating area, then you very well may want to do this in a vehicle much like the Nexus type of vehicle. The second part, the commercial, there's two sides to the commercial vehicle. One is the PAX carrier, the passenger vehicle, and the other is the cargo carrier. We are looking at the Nexus from the commercial standpoint as both a heavier lift vehicle than you would normally get by a vertical lift drone in a normal type of classification of that vehicle, and then also looking at it as a potential passenger carrier. We are all seeing this now. COVID-19 has caused a little bit of a shift in dynamics here. What we were seeing was a large migration of people into the cities all over the world. Why? Because all the services are in the cities, all the jobs are in the cities. COVID-19, I think you're still going to continue to see that, but now we're starting to see some people moving from the inner cities and moving out toward the suburbs or a little further out into the rural areas. Either way, the Nexus has application sets. It just may have to go a little further depending on what you want to do. Nevertheless, and a lot of the European cities know this, many of the European cities are much older than the cities that we have in the United States. You guys have been around longer than we have. That said, those cities are highly constrained in many ways. They were built for horses and carriages like many of our northeastern cities like Boston, New York City, and so on in the United States. So it's hard to start expanding in those areas. And so one of the things, and we know it's very expensive to go down under and tunnel subways. That's not a very economical way of doing it. I mean, it works very well, but it still takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of resources. So our theory is go over the top. Okay, use the airspace to our advantage. And so that's kind of some of the things that we are looking for from the Bell perspective. That's all.
Very expensive to go down under and tunnel subways. That's not a very economical way to do it. I mean, it works very well, but it still takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of resources. So our theory is.
So thank you very much. It was very enlightening. We are also looking into urban mobility here in Portugal with a number of interesting projects. And if you want to get to know them, I'm sure AED can facilitate your contacts. I seem to be able to ask one of my questions because the audience is easing up on the pace of the questions. And I have one, and I won't take it personally if you don't want to answer me, but I've read numbers, and one of you spoke of the future market landscape largely depends on when we expect market to pick up, and 2023, 2025. I've heard worse. What's your internal nightmare scenario? When is the latest you see the pickup in the market coming?
Well, I can answer, Marco. It's exactly what I said in my presentation. Today, we are not able to have a global market forecast updated. This is the reality, 2020. We know also the facts and figures is that the fleet around 65–70% has been grounded, reduced, and the yield, the capacity, or the total number of passengers around, I said 80% before. Of course, this is a general figure without the details about every market. I also mentioned that in some domestic market, and the first one is China, the volumes and the indicators are coming back to the pre-COVID figures in the domestic, but not in the long range. So today we are not able to put together a global market forecast, but our assumptions is that the crisis will go beyond 2021, and the recovery will be between 2023 and, in the worst scenarios, 2025. But this is just an indication, because there is no market assessment today, because we are not able yet to put it together, despite we are, as you can imagine, really concerned and following that every day with our partners.
Thank you. Marc, maybe you want to go next. What's your best guess? I'm not sure Marc is hearing me.
I can hear you, but as Cesar said, we have not clear view of the market forecast, and as THALES, we also follow Airbus and other aircraft manufacturers, because we are supplying them. So we depend a lot on the market recovery that Cesar mentioned.
Well, Alexandre, you're not going to escape from this one.
Okay, Marc. Well, I'll say that we hope to return as soon as possible. Of course, we all are impacted by this pandemic situation. We don't have we just see what this market say. They said 23, 24. But I hope that return as soon as possible. Of course, we are really impacted with all this situation. Not just us, but many other industry parts. So, but so the market is the market. It takes some time to get the return until the numbers we saw in 2019.
Very well. Do you see we are all taking a break because the market has, as Cesar said, and the rest of you emphasized, the market is on hold to see where can we see the uptick in terms of recovery? Where does it start? Is it next month? Is it in 6 months or in a year? Is this not also a very excellent opportunity to invest and leapfrog the usual process of developing and putting into service new technologies? Shouldn't we just take the opportunity that we have to make a breathing and a stop, and usually to move from one technology to the other, you have to deal with the fact that the old one is still in use and in demand by clients. Is this not a good opportunity to leapfrog the process and just go all in investing in whatever is the next technology for the sector?
Marco, if I may, I cannot agree more with you about that. Before COVID, we were investing in new set of technologies, some of them quite disruptive, but this need today is not an option. This need today is mandatory for the survival of the industry, for the survival of the airlines, but also for the engine and manufacturers and integrators like Airbus. That's why I can give you very quick examples. We launched in 2017 the Maverick program about decarbonization. With this, we have proved about 20% of fuel consumption reduction, flying a platform that can fly with a regular kerosene, but with new propulsion systems. But this is only at the risk, because what we have launched, and maybe you saw that in the news, is about the Zero E program. The Zero E program, it is for us the future of decarbonization, and we are talking about an hydrogen-powered aircraft. This is something that we are really investing in now. This program is not for now. We are preparing that, and we try to launch the program in 2026, with entry into service in 2035. But this is what we believe in the future. How to do that? About introducing this hydrogen propulsion is something that today is, of course, premature to say. But for sure, we are trying to do that in a organized way, starting with a turboprop, understanding that to blend it, wind bodies, and turbofan. This is the name of the game for us, and we are following that lead. But this is following exactly what you said. Disruptive technologies is now or never. We cannot escape to that.
Very nice. I don't know if any of the other distinguished gentlemen have something to add.
Maybe something more.
Sorry, now I need to moderate. Please, Alexandre, you go first, and then Marc, please.
Okay, Marc, just say that maybe this is a point, the innovation in services maybe is going faster than the innovation in a different kind of technology. It's faster. For example, during the pandemic situation, we have some commercial aircraft transformed in cargo aircraft. So this is something that maybe was not so normal, then transforming in a kind of business very fast. So this is, I do believe that in service will go in fast, and basically in the digital transformation, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Now, Marc, please.
Yes, I will concur with that, saying that within THALES, we are investing a lot, including now in this difficult period, in digital technologies, that is artificial intelligence, cyber, big data analytics, and connectivity to bring all our clients with the best products and solutions for the platforms and so ever.
Well, very well. Our audience is tired of my questions, so they've got their own. And I have two very direct questions, one for Robert and one for Cesar. Robert, someone's disappointed in you because they expected to hear something about the 505X Jet Ranger and its role in Europe. And so if you can say something about that, it would be very nice. And Cesar, I'm sorry, you're in the spotlight here, but how does the current situation impact the Stelia development project, and does it serve as a gateway for further opportunities for other suppliers in Portugal, or is it a closed-in project? So, Robert, if you could please go first. We seem to have a bit of an over the Atlantic lag.
Thanks, Marco. So yeah, I would first of all don't want to disappoint. So we'll talk about the 505. Look, the 505 is doing exceptionally well. You know, you're talking about an aircraft that was essentially launched in 2017. We took orders in 2016. We've sold over 200 aircraft plus. We continue to do, and the sales continue to look good on that particular aircraft. It is an interesting aircraft because we put it at the far left side of the market segmentation as an entry level, what we call a short light single market. It is done, as I said, exceptionally well. We are seeing continued growth in that particular area. We are getting an interesting set of operators that have an interest in this particular vehicle. We've moved it into the law enforcement operations side of it, where we've equipped it with a traditional law enforcement package. It has great economics, good lift on the vehicle, and surprisingly, well, not so surprisingly, at least for us, but it is a great surprise that we're getting a lot of attraction among smaller law enforcement operations. Look, we've got some fairly large cities here in the U.S., and they need certain air vehicles, especially sometimes our 407s and 429s. However, some of the smaller ones cannot afford, these smaller law enforcement agencies can't afford the smaller or the larger vehicles. And so this bird has come in and really shocked our industry in a very positive way from the law enforcement standpoint, and they really like it. So we are making more and more law enforcement configurations of the aircraft and pushing those out to that particular area. We're moving forward in a few other areas with this vehicle. Some I cannot talk about, but we are excited because these will, when we do come out with them, I think it'll be very interesting to a wide variety of people. The other side of it is the smaller operators are also seeing the vehicle for tourist operations as well as VIP operations, and in addition to that, just private ownership of their first helicopter. And so once again, we're excited about this particular vehicle. It's doing well in the market, and we continue to want to push it. And we'll be pushing it in Europe as well. As well as VIP operations, and in addition to that, just private ownership of their first.
Cesar, do you want to get yours?
Sure, Marco, not a problem at all. Indeed, my answer will be short. Estilia, despite the crisis we are facing, Estilia continues with this project, and this is in close collaboration with the Portuguese authorities and the support of the Portuguese authorities. Estilia is planning to continue with this project, and of course, this is all, and they fully understand that we temporarily slow down the implementation due to the current situation, the same that we are doing in our facilities.
Thank you. I have a very, very simple question that I'm sure all of you can answer in 30 seconds or less. In terms of, we said, the Minister of Economy said we needed to attract, train, and retain talent. How are you managing in retaining talent, let alone training new talent, but retaining talent in a time where operations are downsizing? And so 30 seconds should get it out of the way. How are you managing to keep the core competences in your organizations? Do you have a plan for that? Or are you just thinking in terms of we'll try and make sure we don't get it wrong? So that's a simple one. So we are at the limit of our time. So if you can give me a very short answer, one that doesn't get you in trouble, please.
Well, at group level, this is, and thank you for this question, Marco, because this is also a good opportunity to thank our, at least in Europe, our authorities that has put in place strong support actions to keep jobs and talent in the companies. We are taking advantage of this national government support. We are putting in place a social plan that so far our target is to have a smooth transition and to keep all the talent in-house because they will be needed in the future. So we are using that Portugal unemployment tools to solve the crisis. And so far, what I can say is that we are very extremely thankful to our authorities that are helping us to achieve that, like many other companies.
Oh, thank you. Marc, maybe you can go next this time.
Yes, in fact, within THALES, as Cesar mentioned for Airbus, we have programs to retain talents. We have a talent acquisition model, and we keep the talents, we train the people, and we have also parities and experts programs so that we can keep the experts we need for the ramp up, which is going to come in next few years.
Thank you. Robert, how is Bell dealing with this pressure to reshape operations, taking into account market conditions, but also retaining the talent you'll need to reshape the future?
Robert, how is Bell dealing with this pressure to reshape operations, taking into account market conditions, but also retaining the talent you need to reshape the future?
Thanks, Marco. For the most part, Bell has remained somewhat isolated from a lot of the effects of the COVID-19 virus and the pandemic globally. Our numbers were strong in Q2. Our numbers are looking very good for Q3. So we're happy about that. So we have taken an approach that we are actually we are hiring talent in at this time, and for a number of different reasons as we start to push a number of these programs that you saw in my presentation forward. So if we're not investing now during this kind of awkward time, we will not be prepared when we come out of it later. So we are trying to, one, look at that resource talent pool, expand upon that resource talent pool, so we are ready to go here in the near-term future once we exit COVID-19. So I think all in all, I'm glad to report that I think we're doing pretty well going through that. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexandre, please.
When we come out of it later. So we are trying to...
I will say that, Marco, thank you for the question. I do believe that we work this in a daily basis to keep our talent. It's very strategic for OGMA, of course. Our people is the most important asset that we have, and of course we need to be prepared for when everything return. Keep training, keep the people motivated. It's the basic things that we need to do here at OGMA. That's it.
Okay, thank you. We are on the verge of running out of time. I would like again to thank you, AED, for bringing us together. I learned a lot. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to all that are listening and that made very interesting questions that allowed us to extract more value. But at this point, when we adapt to the future market landscape, it means we have a lot of work to do. I'll let you go and reshape the industry. And for now, for this panel, we are about done. Space is coming in and they have satellites. So let's get out of the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Marco.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marc Capitão Ferreira, for your excellent moderation. We are on time, which is perfect. And thank you very much, all participants. I share with you, it was an excellent discussion, I think. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. And now to finalize this morning sessions, we will just have a brief keynote speech from Ponto Sor, which, as most of you know, it's an excellent case on how to leverage these three sectors in order to create a thriving regional industrial hub. So we will have some words from Rogério Alves, the city councillor, which will share his vision and the project that they have in hand.